So joining us today at the Digital Agency Summit 2016, I have Philippa Penfold, or Pip, who is the HR and Talent Director for APAC at GroupM. Pip, thanks very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
So tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, where you come from, and a bit about GroupM for those that don't know.
Oh, okay. So a bit about me. I'm Australian by birth, but I've been out in Asia for around 8 years. I'm currently based in Singapore. I've been there for just over 6 years now. It's home. I joined GroupM back in July last year. I've been in HR for about 17 years, but my first foray into the digital media space, which is loads of fun. So with my very short tenure in digital media, I can tell you that GroupM is part of the WPP group. We're a holding company for a number of media agencies, most notably Mindshare, Mediacom, Maxis and MEC. We've got a huge presence across the world, but in my remit across Asia. I'm covering 15 countries where we've got a presence of multiple agencies, a lot of small, very funky ones like Xaxis and Vocanic. We'd be here all day if I gave you the full list.
So how many employees roughly around Asia?
But let's say between 7,000 and 8,000.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key takeaways you've gotten from the Digital Agency Summit? Is there anything particular that stood out that you went, wow, yeah, hey, didn't think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, being new to digital media, I've learned a huge amount from being here. You know, I'm surrounded by experts. I think that from my experience, because it's so diverse, one thing I've picked up is there's actually not much about our industry that is unique. We were all talking about retention being an issue. We're talking about the supply of labour being an issue. We're talking about change management being an issue. In most of the industries I've been in recently, whether it's mining, consulting or banking and finance, they're the same issues in slightly different measure. But we really are all struggling with very similar topics. The change management one was a really interesting one. There's a great presentation as a keynote on our opening day. And he challenged everyone in the room around change management and saying we all stink at it. And he then went on to say that IT, HR and finance are good. Now, I would beg to differ. We're all crap. None of us are very good at it. We just have very different approaches to it. And I think that organisations generally have really struggled with how they facilitate and support employees in a much more rapid pace of change that we have today in every industry and we're all affected by it. So I think that was a little bit surprising to see that seems to have been a key theme that's come out here. And then lastly, I think the reinvention of our industry, being quite new, and I joined GroupM because we're at a fascinating stage of our evolution. We're not at the top anymore. I heard someone say we're not the Hollywood darling of companies, of industry to join anymore. With my background in banking and finance, that's very familiar because no one wants to join banks these days either. But our industry is in such an interesting space. People or companies are competitors that were never competitors before. And I've heard the term eating our lunch a lot. And it makes me, I've been thinking a lot around how we reinvent. What's our new niche? What is our position with companies like the Googles and the Facebooks, like the consulting firms, and then big companies that are able to gather client offerings from various and sundry places very quickly, like the Sapiens. Sapient Nitro, sorry. So I think that we are at a very critical juncture of our evolution in being able to redefine ourselves. I think this is very challenging for a lot of people who've been in the industry for a very long time. It's hard when you've invested your life somewhere or your career somewhere, only to be told that the value is now decreased because things have changed. And it actually goes back to the change management aspect as well. People are uncomfortable with their position. It's become far more tenuous. So yeah, great takeaways. I've really enjoyed the conference and learned a lot.
So what do you think about the resort and the setting? Is this a place that's conducive to these sort of conversations? Are you getting some good sort of after seminar type conversations going on?
Yeah, look, I really have enjoyed the program actually. I think Paul has done a marvellous job. Oftentimes these are exceedingly dry, lecture upon lecture, death by PowerPoint. I think Paul understands, as the conference organiser, really understands the value that comes from social interactions in a much more casual setting. I think the Q&A, the roundtable discussions over breakfast, very helpful, gets everyone to share their views, leverages everybody's knowledge, sharing with other people. So I think that, rather than just death by PowerPoint for days on end, which nobody really enjoys or arguably gets much out of. The other part, so I went to the Zip Fly yesterday, it was fantastic. But even between the trees, lovely bonding opportunities. You know, there's some people that were really scared of what they were doing. They'd pushed themselves way out of their comfort zone. And to be able to be there and be a part of that was a real privilege. And oftentimes at conferences you don't get that opportunity to be able to connect with people in that sort of way. Being out in nature, it was wonderful. It was a really great experience. And then being able to talk more about what people do in between and sharing knowledge, it was a great bonding experience. I think I feel sorry for the guys who went and played golf.
Yeah, that would be me. But we won, so it's all good.
Yeah. And just lastly, I love the fact that we've also had buffet. Often you'll have a sit-down dinner and you only end up talking to the people that you're talking to. I think, Paul has managed to blend the drink networking with a buffet style sort of sit anywhere dinner, evolving back into the drink setting. People can come and go as it suits them. They can talk to different people. You're not sitting next to someone that you have to talk to for an entire evening. I think that has been extremely valuable as well. And lastly, I think he was very clever at selecting a controversial keynote to open up.
It was Damien Cummins, yeah?
Yeah.
From Stan Chartered.
Yes, I understand that he is no longer here. He went back to Singapore. I was a little bit worried it was because of a lynch mob. But because what he said was very provocative, was very thought-provoking. I think highly necessary, actually, to bring this. But to be able to position that at the start of a conference was very, very smart on Paul's part. So it's been a great setup. The resort is lovely. Who can fault Phuket for a location? But you can have the most beautiful location in the world and still not structure an effective conference. And I think Paul's done a marvellous job of that.
Sounds like you're coming back next year then.
Yeah, as long as I get an invitation, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, look, Pip, thank you so much for your time, giving us some of your insights, and we're going to let you get back in there now and learn some more stuff.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.